Good afternoon. My name is Muhammad Jamil Idris, a correspondent from the Pledge to Nigeria TV. And today we're on the streets of Kano, trying to see how English is used across the state. Do join me. All right, good afternoon. I'm here with...
Gal Muhammad Bashir is my name.
First of all, I want to ask you, are you from Kano?
Yes, I am.
You're sure you're from Kano?
Absolutely.
Did you study in Kano?
Born, like Nigerian we say, born, bread and butter.
Really? In this state?
Yeah.
Well, today I'm trying to dispel the myth that Northerners cannot speak English, right? What do you have to say about that?
Well, it's a really notion that many believe that Northerners cannot speak, but for some of us who can, we can. And even in the past, you've seen the likes of Tafawa Balewa,
Yeah.
Emerson Nkano,
He was, I think, Tafawa
Selim
Balewa
Tama
was
and the
called
rest
the golden voice of Africa,
of
right?
Africa. Yeah.
Now tell me something. Did we get it wrong somewhere along the line? Because I think even just like yourself, Tafawa Balewa was born in Bauchi. I think in a suburban part of the state.
That's where Tafawa Balewa was actually the name of where he was born.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So he wasn't even from the city of Bauchi.
Not at all.
So tell me, how did Tafawa Balewa get it right? And how did you get it right? And why are the rest of the northern part of the country not getting it right? Tell us something that we don't know.
Well, I think let me begin from Tafawa Balewa. Tafawa Balewa, as a Dan, was a British.
Okay.
Went to most all their teachers were to the British, and I think that's where they got it right, directly from the source. But for people like us, well, it's not direct, but it's all about what you want and also dedication, and also fighting and towards that. Northerners can't speak English, so you have to work towards that and become better. Whatever we want to do, we do it.
Do you think that the Easterners or the Westerners can speak English more than the Northerners? Do you think that?
No.
Why? But we've had statements of Westerners saying that the northern parts of the country are known for bad English. I mean, you had someone like one of the senators, I think his name was Kazawari or something. The guy butchered English in the Senate chambers. So how is it possible for we to have more people in the north speaking like yourself?
Well, I bet we with the Northerners is that Northerners do not actually believe in the language itself. So they don't take into cognition that I must speak well. The essence of language is communication, and for a Northerner to communicate in the language, that's all. A typical Northerner believe that that's what they need.
So they feel like it's not important, it's not my father's tongue.
Absolutely, yes. It's not my father, it's not my mother's tongue. I don't need it. I can communicate anytime, or I can write. If I can speak well, I can actually write.
Do you think there are steps that should be taken by schools to make sure that this whole thing is quelled and people speak English to a decent amount, a decent degree?
Yeah, first of all, I think it's foundation and notion that put in the people's notion that speaking the language right is very important. You need to speak. We're not saying you don't have to speak like the native, that is their language, but you can actually be close to the native speakers. That if your language, and like, for example, in Hausa is butchered, you will not like it. But when you hear someone who is not your language and speaks the language well, you would love the sound of it.
So your argument basically is now, whatever language you're trying to speak it well.
Absolutely.
So now tell me, we've heard instances of Nigerian English, Australian English. What are some of these kinds of, or rather ways that we use English in Nigeria that is, inherently bad in and of itself? Or would say there are better ways of saying those things?
Well, Nigerians as we are, we're well-traveled people, educated, and so we tend to mix up the American, the British, the Australian. One of my mentors call it macaroni.
Okay.
But it's okay. It's accepted for you to macaroni the language itself. But what I mean
What does it mean by macaroni?
Okay. So you decide to use some American words or the expression, and while your accent is some part of, you pronounce some word in the British kind of accent, or you decide to pronounce use American pronunciation. Like I do it a lot myself. You say
Okay.
you heard me. I say a lot. I could say a lot. I could say a lot. So it depends on who I'm speaking with and how I feel. For me, that's so you can macaronic it, and that depends on who are the people you actually mix with or the kind of books you read. Is it a Canadian books, Australian books, movies that you also watch?
So if I was a typical northerner who comes to you and say, look, I speak English, you understand me, so why should I bother about speaking it well and trying to get myself grounded in pronunciation and accent and all of those? Why?
Now, reason is for every language, you must learn to speak it well. For every language has its own grammar. For example, in Hausa, we have some part of our words that are you'd have to be feminine, and some are masculine. You can't use a feminine for masculine. So when you do that, you have just butchered your language. So how would you feel when someone wants to is trying to tell you something that is saying something in the past and it's using the future?
Okay, tell me something. Give me, I assume you teach English?
Yes.
Okay, give me some practical steps
Okay.
for anyone who just wants to get into the field of English and learn to speak well like yourself. Could you give me some practical tips that we could use to get to this level?
Well, first, you need to get your grammar right. Grammar
Okay.
is the first thing.
Okay.
Grammar number one.
Okay.
Future tense, past tense.
Could you
past
give us some
participle.
examples of how we mix these things?
Okay. First, like Nigerians do overuse the continuous tense or the progressive tense.
Okay.
For example, you want to say, let's say, she is singing. Now, instead of saying she is singing, there's nothing wrong with it. It's correct. But you could say she sings beautifully because the person you are telling knows he can hear that she is singing.
Wow.
So why repeating it?
Okay.
So why there's what we call economy of words. So you
Okay.
can economize your words. You say she sings well. So for example, you could say he is cooking. I can see he is cooking.
Yeah.
But instead of saying I say he cooks
Yeah,
every night or
okay.
he cooks for us every day.
Okay.
So
Okay.
instead of the progressive, you use the what? The present tense, which is though it's more intense as the name tense says.
Yes, yes.
It's more intense to use. But that is what the native use most. That's why they kind of they sound kind of different. But
Okay.
you can also be like that.
Okay. So,
Practice.
so that's one. Grammar. What's another thing you'd say?
Yeah. You need to be conscious.
Okay.
You need to be conscious of what you want to say and how you want to say it. Do you want to say something in the past? So when you get the grammar right, you know that this is present, this is past tense, this is future. So when you know that, you know what to say and when to say and how to say it.
Okay. So grammar. Be cautious.
Be conscious, yeah. You
Okay.
need to be conscious of that.
Then what's the last tip you would?
The last thing I would say, practice, and here in the north, we're always shy.
Right?
Don't be shy.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Gali. It's been a pleasure having you. So, my folks, there you go.
It's a pleasure.
Northerners can, of course, speak English. Join me next time. See you.